Welcome to the Greenlight Investor for the week ending July 2nd, 2015. The goal of the Greenlight Investor is to provide a resource to make managing your 401k both a simple and easy process. We do this by using red, green, and yellow cells to help you decide when to buy, what to buy, and when to sell. This presentation is for educational purposes only and should not be taken as personal investment advice. The examples shown are exactly that. They're just examples of how you can use this worksheet to make choices within your 401k plan. Please refer to your own investment policy to make certain that the choices you make are appropriate for both your investment time horizon as well as your understanding and acceptance for taking risk in financial markets. With that said, let's go ahead and take a look at the worksheet. Each week we'll put out a worksheet that highlights the different fund choices within your 401k. They're categorized by the fund number, the symbol, the fund name, and a description of each fund. And they're separated into different categories, starting with the core investments, which are the index funds. Then we go into the satellite funds, starting with the money market, fixed income, U.S. growth and income, U.S. equity, international, and then the sector funds. In the center of the sheet, we'll show the performance for the year 2015, and we update that each week by updating the closing price, the month-to-date return, quarter-to-date return, and the year-to-date return. I feel it's important to know how your funds are doing relative to the other funds in the categories, as well as how the other categories are doing against the ones that you've chosen. By keeping track of these, hopefully you'll be able to stay in the stronger funds and avoid the weaker ones for any prolonged period of time. And finally, we'll come to what I think is the most unique and useful section within this worksheet, and that's the current weekly trends. This is a relative strength section of the worksheet, and it'll help you find out which funds have been performing the strongest and which ones are the weakest. The focal point is column V on this worksheet. That shows the relative strength change on a week-over-week basis. When you're seeing the green cells, those have been the strongest performing funds on a week-over-week basis. And when you see the red cells, those will show the weaker performing funds on a week-over-week basis. This is accumulated on the right side of this. Each week we'll see how the trend changes and see if we can identify any persistent trends for each of the funds. When you see the red cells, you'll see the funds that are generally weaker over a period of time. And when you see the green cells, those will show the ones that have been performing better. The numerical values will help you identify the trend changes just a little bit earlier. When you see the numerical values decreasing, that will show that there's a decreasing relative strength for each of the funds. And when you see the fund's numerical value increase, that'll show that that fund is strengthening on a week-over-week basis. As we scroll down, we'll see that we've been having a lot of red in the fixed income, so we've tended to avoid this area just because of all the red. When those cells start turning green, we'll look to allocate capital back to this area. As we go to the fixed income, or from the fixed income to the U.S. growth and income, we're seeing generally a lot of red on both sides, so we're tending to stay very light or avoid this area. The U.S. equities have been relatively strong. They've been the safe place to be. We're seeing quite a bit of green, but we are seeing it transition to red. And on the short-term column, we look at the short-term, the intermediate, and the long-term trends. The short term has been generally weak, and the intermediate term is starting to turn weak. And the most important column that we do look at when making decisions is the long-term trend. When we see that one turn red, confirmed by a red on the right side of column V, then we'll generally try to stay out of those and move to a money market fund, or we'll move to another fund that's showing relative strength by having green cells on both sides. That's the choice you'll have to make as an investor. And as we scroll down, we'll see that our international funds have turned very red this past week. The short term and intermediate term are showing a lot of red, and we're just starting to see a transition to red and green. So that may be a cautious sign showing up here early. And finally, we're also seeing quite a bit of red in what's been a very strong category. The sector funds are starting to show a lot more red. And again, they're showing the short-term trend has been very weak. Intermediate has been starting to show red and yellow cells. And even the longer term is starting to turn over and transition into yellow. So it gives you an idea as to when you may need to make changes within your 401k as you see the transitions from red to yellow and green, and then back to yellow and red. With that said, let's go ahead and see how we can use this system to help you make choices within your 401k. To go to the asset allocation portion of this worksheet, you'll want to go up to the ribbon and click on View, and then go to Custom Views, and let's populate this with my current allocation. Highlight it and then click Show, and the current allocation will be shown to the left of the worksheet. In order to see if there's any changes to be made, we'll simply slide the worksheet over so you can see exactly where your choices are relative to the column U, V, and W, and see if we're seeing the green light and the green light to the left and right, which we are, so there's nothing that needs to be done to the index funds. We are seeing that this has been weakening, so we'll keep an eye out on this, but right now I'm going to go ahead and just leave this as is. Let's go down to our next selection. This is a 10% allocation into the money markets. And this one generally shows that we're neutral and neutral. With two green lights on column V, the money market's been the strongest place to be over the week. I currently have the 10% allocation to fixed income, or to, this is into the money market fund. The fixed income, we've changed that to a 0% allocation. And the reason for that is we see red lights down the right side, and we're seeing red lights on the left side of column V. So that's showing that this is not a good category to be in right now. Next, we'll show we have a 5% allocation that we would like to have in the U.S. growth and income, but we've moved this one to 0, again, because we've seen a lot of red starting to populate this, and then we've seen a lot of yellow and red populating the left side of column V. So we've moved that over to another area for now. Let's go ahead and take a look at our equity funds, our U.S. equity funds. We currently have a target allocation of 30%. And right now we have it set up between two different funds. And let's see, right now we have a 20% allocation. We're seeing a green light and a green light. But again, we're seeing a weakening trend, so we'll watch this on a week-over-week basis. And we have a 10% allocation here, and we've seen this one weaken on 2 consecutive weeks and now a third, and we've switched over to a yellow light. So with that said, in the general market showing this weakness, I'm going to go ahead and just change this down to a 0, and I'm going to move this over to a money market fund for now. So let's scroll back up. We'll populate the money market fund. We have a 10% allocation, but we're going to move this one from 10 up to 20% now because we've moved some money out of the U.S. equities into the money market as a holding place. And what we'll be looking for is more green cells to start populating once we get through this proliferation of red cells. So what we've done is we have a 30% allocation that we would like to have, but because of the red cells starting to show up, we've moved this down to just a 20% allocation. And let's go down and see how we're doing with the international funds. Again, we have a 30% allocation. The yellow cell you leave alone, don't change that. That'll show that we have a 30% allocation, and that's split between two different funds. So let's slide this over and see how those funds are doing right now. This 20% allocation, we have a green cell with a red cell. And again, with all of this red, I'm going to go ahead and switch this over to 0 and move that to a money market. And we're seeing the same on this other 10%. So we see a green cell and a red cell. We've seen a red, a green, and general red in the cell. So with this, I'm going to go ahead and move both of these over to the money market. So we're going to take 20 and 10%, move those into the money market. So we'll add 40% to the money market for now. So let's take those down to 0, which we're seeing we have the 0% allocation currently, but we would like to have 30%. When we see some of these green cells starting to appear, we'll repopulate these cells. And let's go ahead and move back up to our money market. And we've moved 30% out of the international funds, and we're going to allocate that back to the money market. So let's add 30% here, and that'll take us up to 50% in the money market. And finally, let's go down and take a look and see how we're doing with our sector funds. We have a 15% allocation, but we moved money out of the growth and income into the financials last week. So we have a 10% allocation here. We're still seeing a green light and a green light, so we're okay. So nothing needs to be done there. We have a 5% allocation here, but I see a yellow and 2 red lights, so I'm definitely going to move that to a money market. And with that, we have a green light and a green light on this final allocation, so we're okay on that. We won't do anything. So let's go ahead and change this allocation. We're going to take this 5 down to 0, so we currently are back to our 15% allocation. And that 5%, we're going to move that back up to a money market, and that's going to take us to 55% just for the short term. Let's go back. Now what we'll be looking for with that cash is that's in a safer place right now as we're seeing more and more of the red cells populate. Once we start seeing the green cells populate again and we see the market strengthening or starting to perform better, then we'll go ahead and reallocate to the funds that are showing the strongest increase in the numerical values on the right side of column V. And so this is quite a bit that we did this week, but it doesn't take long. It's taken us about 10 minutes to go ahead and do the reallocation. Then on Monday, you'll go ahead and go to your website, and you can make any changes that you need to adjust to make the actual changes within your 401k plan. And that's it. That's all we have to do to make the allocations. I'll save these, and then I'm going to go back to the view, go back to the with performance columns, click show, and we'll go back to our original worksheet. That's all there is to making choices for managing your 401k. I hope it's been helpful and has given you some ideas and resources for managing your 401k. If you'd like to find out more how the Greenlight Investor can help you make sense of your 401k, you can send me an email and I'd be happy to get in contact with you. Or you can always visit our website at thegreenlightinvestor.org. That's greenlightinvestor.org. Right up here at the top will take you there. And you can see what the worksheet is on a week-over-week basis, or if you'd like to have it sent to you, just fill in your email and I'll put you on our mailing list. That's what I've got for the week. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a really nice 4th of July holiday. Thank you.